He sabotaged my boat and left me stranded," screamed my HOA president into 911, seated in the very speedboat she had taken from me at 2 in the morning. The situation was completely absurd. Patricia had stolen my boat without asking, then turned around and called the police, trying to frame me as the villain. What she didn't know was that I had remote access to the boat and could track everything she was doing straight from my phone. This woman, who clearly thought she was teaching me some lesson about neighborhood regulations, was about to face the hardest truth of her life. What followed was the most outrageous meltdown ever witnessed in HOA history. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever had to deal with an overbearing HOA president? Hey everyone, welcome back to BD Stories. Today's tale is completely wild, and trust me, you'll want to stay till the end. I'm curious to hear what you think. 6 months ago, I believed I'd found my personal paradise. I had just bought a stunning lakefront property at Pine Lake. I'm Jake Mitchell, 38 years old. After my software startup got acquired, I swapped out my cramped city apartment for a home with real space and fresh air. But honestly, the house wasn't even the best part. What I really loved was my daily commute. Instead of battling gridlock for 2 hours, I took my speedboat to Thunderbolt across the lake to work. The 15-minute ride across glassy, blue water, with morning mist and the roar of a perfectly tuned engine, beat honking horns and smog any day. But not everyone appreciated the serenity the same way I did. Patricia Stone, age 62, had been running the HOA for the past 8 years, ever since her husband Harold passed away and left her the largest house on the lake. With no real responsibilities, she seemed to have made it her mission to monitor every tiny detail of the neighborhood. A retired librarian, Patricia had a serious passion for rules and zero tolerance for noise above a whisper. She lived alone in her oversized home, and I'm fairly certain her only pastime was making her neighbors' lives harder. It felt like she had a sixth sense for joy appearing the moment anyone started to enjoy themselves. Clipboard always in hand, she'd cite obscure bylaws like she was reciting scripture. The problems began during my first week. She sent me a welcome letter of 12 pages of HOA rules, all highlighted in yellow. I skimmed through it, chuckled at her intensity, and filed it away. Then came week 2 and the first complaint. She claimed the engine on my boat was too loud during the early morning, but after checking the manual, I saw it only produced 58 decibels, so well under the 65 decibels limit. I replied politely with the specs, expecting that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Patricia didn't care about facts. Week 3 brought another complaint. This time, she said my dock extended 3.2 feet beyond the approved area. She even attached photos from different angles, each with a measuring tape in the frame. I remeasured. Everything was perfectly to code. Then came week 4 and the most ridiculous claim yet. She said that my life jacket, hanging on my balcony, violated community aesthetic standards under section 4.7. When I read the clause, it actually referred to patio furniture and not safety gear. My patience was thinning, but I tried to remain civil. And then came the infamous photo incident, the one all my neighbors would be talking about later. That week, Patricia apparently decided she needed hard proof of my violations. She crouched behind a tree with a massive telephoto camera, like she was a wildlife photographer on assignment. I saw her as soon as I stepped out to start my boat. Instead of getting annoyed, I chose to play along. I waved and called, "Good morning, Patricia." Perfect weather for photography. She was so startled, she stumbled backwards, tripped over her tripod, and fell straight into the shallow lake water. Her pricey camera made a satisfying splash as it sank beneath the surface. Despite everything, I walked over to help her up and fish out the soggy camera. "Thanks," she muttered, mascara running, dripping wet, and clearly mortified. I was photographing wildlife. Handing her the ruined camera, I replied with a grin, "Nature sure is fascinating. Same time tomorrow?" Her face flushed with embarrassment and fury as neighbors peeked from behind curtains, curious about the chaos. At that moment, I realized that this wasn't going to be resolved with polite back and forth emails. The next home meeting was like a thunderstorm you see coming but can't dodge. Patricia came armed with a full PowerPoint titled The Jake Mitchell Problem, a Threat to Community Standards. She brought printed handouts, graphs tracking noise violations, and had mailed invitations to every single resident via certified post. Only 12 people showed up, including me, but Patricia acted like she was briefing a government panel. For 20 minutes, she went through a 47-point list of supposed offenses, with time-stamped photos, decibel readings from a phone app, and dock measurements she claimed to have made herself. She had clearly devoted more time to tracking my routine than most people spend working full-time. I stayed calm, jotting down every mistake and exaggeration with my engineer's precision. When she finished, I stood up holding a simple manila folder. "Thank you, Patricia, that was very detailed," I said calmly, opening the folder. According to Article 2, Section 3 of our HOA Charter, boats under 25 feet may operate from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. My boat is 22 feet. I use it between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. I turned the page. Section 4.1 states that private docks are exempt from HOA spacing rules. Section 4.7 refers to patio furniture and plants and not life jackets. As I spoke, Patricia's expression twisted. Her entire argument was unraveling in front of her. "You think you are clever with your loopholes," she snapped. "They're not loopholes, Patricia," I replied. "They're the actual rules." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. For the first time, Patricia wasn't in control of the conversation, and that night marked a major turning point. After the home meeting, I headed home and opened my laptop. What had started as a simple boat maintenance tracker app I built for personal use was now evolving fast. I began adding features such as GPS tracking, engine diagnostics, and, just in case things got out of hand, remote engine control. I had a growing sense that Patricia wasn't going to back down easily. Something in my gut told me those 12 pages of neon highlighted rules were only the opening salvo in what would become an all-out war. And I was right to be suspicious. Why was Patricia so obsessed with micromanaging every tiny detail of life on the lake? And what would she do once her legal strategies stopped working? Let me know in the comments. Ever deal with a neighbor like this? If you're thinking she's about to make a very dumb move, just type Karen below. The week after our heated HOA showdown, Patricia launched what she grandly referred to as her documentation phase. Public humiliation had clearly curdled into something darker, a full-blown vendetta. She hired a guy named Jerry, whom she found through a shady classified ad site. He called himself a private investigator, but with a B2 Honda Civic, a $1.50 day rate, and a crumpled fedora that looked like it belonged in a bad detective movie. He didn't exactly inspire fear or confidence. Patricia gave him a singular task: follow Jake Mitchell and log every infraction, no matter how petty. Day one was already a comedy. Jerry arrived before sunrise and parked across from my house, sipping from a thermos and peering through what looked like dollar store binoculars. I waved at him from my kitchen window. He panicked, ducked, and dumped hot coffee all over his lap. I could hear the expletives from inside. Day two, I found him half hidden behind some bushes near the lake. During my evening jog, I stopped next to him and smiled. "You must be Jerry." Patricia mentioned something about community surveillance. "Need a bottle of water?" He looked like a deer caught in headlights. "You have broken bar bird watching," he stammered. "Oh yeah? What species?" "You have broken bar, the blue-footed lake bird." I laughed. "You mean the great blue heron?" "No blue feet, but close." "Good luck out there." By day three, Jerry had thrown in the towel. I caught him at a local cafe copyright, tapping away at Candy Crush and scribbling fake observations into a notepad. But Patricia wasn't done. When amateur surveillance failed, she turned to bureaucracy. She started flooding various government agencies with anonymous complaints. First, she called County Noise Control, alleging illegal engine noise levels. An inspector came by, tested my boat, and recorded a perfect 54 decibels, well below the legal threshold. He even complimented the engine upkeep. Next, she tried the Coast Guard, accusing me of reckless boating. They made a surprise visit, ran a full inspection, and ended up praising my safety measures. They even added me to a list of outstanding recreational boaters. Not satisfied, she contacted the Environmental Protection Agency, claiming I was dumping fuel into the lake. After running a battery of tests, the EPA not only found zero contamination, they gave Pine Lake a spot in their Community Environmental Excellence Program. Every failed attempt seemed to make Patricia more desperate. She became convinced I'd bribed the inspectors. Paranoia was sinking its teeth in deep. By the 6th week, she cracked. If official channels couldn't take me down, she'd resort to physical evidence. And no matter how absurd, she began tracking my daily routine. Leave the house at 7 a.m., return around 6 p.m., lights off by 10 o'clock. One Tuesday night, dressed in black yoga pants and a hoodie, her version of stealth gear, Patricia crept down to my dock just before midnight. I would only learn her plan later, but I suspect she wanted to sabotage something on the boat, just enough to cause a breakdown. Maybe she thought she could conveniently show up as the helpful neighbor, hoping to redeem herself or regain control. What she didn't know was that I had installed security cameras 2 weeks prior. At exactly 11:47 p.m., footage showed her emerging from the bushes with a flashlight. She tripped over a mooring rope, stumbled into the boat, and accidentally blasted the horn. For a full minute, she stood frozen like a cartoon character, wide-eyed and panicked. Then she slowly tiptoed toward the engine bay. She opened the hatch, stared inside, and clearly had no idea what she was looking at. Pulling out her phone, she began Googling how to sabotage a boat. She fumbled with a piece of decorative trim, which dropped into the lake with a loud plunk. Wincing, she moved on to the oil copper couldn't open ITA and then used a screwdriver to poke randomly at parts of the engine, muttering, "This has to do something." Finally, she produced a small bag of sand and poured it into what she believed was the gas tank. It was the cup holder. To top it off, she left a manila envelope labeled confidential on the driver's seat, like she was planting some kind of fake evidence. On her way off the boat, her yoga pants got snagged on a cleat. She tore them trying to free herself and nearly fell into the lake. One shoe slipped off, and she hobbled away barefoot, muttering under her breath, "That'll teach him to humiliate me." The next morning, I sipped my coffee while reviewing the footage. Oddly, I didn't feel angry. If anything, I felt a strange kind of pity. But her behavior had clearly escalated to a dangerous level. I called an old college buddy of mine, Sam Brooks, who just so happened to be the local police captain. "Sam," I said, "I think my neighbors crossed the line from annoying to possibly criminal." "Let me guess," he replied. "HOA president with a god complex?" "HOA president with a god complex? Bingo," I told Sam. "She tried to sabotage my boat last night. I've got it all on video. But here's the thing, I think she's planning something even worse." "You want to press charges?" "Not yet. I want her to walk straight into something she can't deny or explain away." "You're thinking of baiting her?" "Exactly. Let her think she's winning. Let her take the boat. I've installed remote engine control and live GPS tracking. We'll stop her mid-crime." Sam paused. "You sure? This could ruin her life." "She already did that to her own reputation. I'm just giving her the rope." We spent the next hour planning it out. I upgraded the boat's GPS for real-time tracking, hooked up a remote kill switch to my phone, and left a few props, spare keys in plain sight and a folder marked confidential resting on the captain's seat. Sam arranged local patrol coverage, and I got to work on my airtight alibi. I'd be out of town, visibly, provably, out of town. Later that night, as I double-checked the new control systems from home, a local news alert popped up on my phone. Pine Lake HOA President Patricia Green now facing a no-confidence petition signed by 15 residents. Was this enough to send her spiraling into one last reckless move? Let me know in the comments. Was I pushing this too far, or was Patricia just reaping what she sowed? Tap if you think she's about to fall right into it. Setting up my alibi took precision. I booked a hotel 2 hours away, posted on social media about a fictional business retreat, and made sure Patricia overheard me casually telling my landscaper, "I'll be out of town Thursday through Sunday. I keep an eye on the place, especially the boat." Thursday afternoon, I drove to the hotel, checked in, snapped a lobby selfie for social proof, then quietly left. I parked the car in the hotel garage to stay off radar, then grabbed a rideshare back to my friend Mike's place a half an hour from Pine Lake. There, I had internet, privacy, and full access to my boat's security feeds. I called Sam. "Phase 1 complete. I'm officially out of town, but I've got eyes on everything." "And the bait?" "Sitting right on the driver's seat, keys and the confidential folder." What's in the folder? Cookie recipes I pulled from Pinterest. If she opens it looking for blackmail, she'll find my grandma's chocolate chip cookies and Martha Stewart's snickerdoodles, Sam chuckled. And if she doesn't take the bait, then maybe she's not as far gone as I thought. But some a broken bar. I don't think that's how this ends. That same day, Patricia's world crumbled further. The HOA board had scheduled an emergency meeting for the following Tuesday. 18 residents had signed a petition demanding her immediate removal as president. The charges: excessive fines for trivial matters, intimidation over normal activities, misuse of funds for personal investigations, fostering a toxic community atmosphere, and abusing her role for vendettas. Patricia sat in her silent home, reading the petition again and again. Above the fireplace, her late husband Harold's photo seemed to glare down at her. "I'm protecting our investment, Harold," she whispered. "Someone has to uphold the standards we built." She poured herself a heavy glass of wine and stared across the lake at my house. My boat, calm and undisturbed, seemed to taunt her. This wasn't about community rules anymore. It was about pride, control, and the need to prove she was right. "He started this," she muttered, the wine loosening her tongue. "Mr. Perfect with his perfect boat and perfect attitude. The neighborhood was fine before he showed up." Fueled by resentment and alcohol, her perception warped further. I was no longer just a meticulous neighbor. I had become the symbol of everything she was losing. Desperate, she made one last call to Jerry. "I need you to do something more direct," she said. "What do you mean, Mrs. Green?" "I think Jake's hiding something illegal. We need to search his boat while he's away." "Mama, broken bar, that's breaking and entering." "I'm not doing that." "You're fired." Click. She poured another drink, opened her laptop, and began researching how to collect evidence and citizens' arrest laws. It was a volatile mix: wine, rejection, obsession, and now, legal misinformation. Friday night, 11 p.m., fueled by self-righteous fury and too much Chardonnay, Patricia made her move. She dressed again in black, armed with a backpack of what she considered incriminating evidence: a bag of white powder, flour, several blank USB drives, and some fake financial documents she'd mocked up in Word. From Mike's apartment, I watched it all unfold through the boat's cameras. "She's moving," I texted Sam. 10 minutes out from the launch," he replied. "Don't trigger anything until I'm there." Patricia reached the boat, and as expected, immediately spotted the spare key sitting on the seat. She spotted the key on the seat. "Too easy," she muttered, narrowing her eyes. "This is definitely a setup." She studied the key like it might detonate, then examined the boat, then the key again. For nearly 20 minutes, she paced the dock like a restless predator, snapping photos of everything at every latch, compartment, and sticker, trying to catch me in the act of framing her. Eventually, she noticed the confidential document bag and opened it with shaking hands. "Add chocolate chips gradually while mixing on medium speed. Bake for 12 minutes at 350 degrees. She blinked. "What?" More pages. Martha's famous snickerdoodles, holiday fudge, page after page of dessert recipes. Her conspiracy theory cracked. Maybe broken bar, maybe he really is just some guy who likes cookies and boats. But embarrassment rushed in to replace her suspicion. Ashamed she'd let herself get played, the wine-fueled anger returned, now laced with humiliation. He's mocking me. He knew I'd come snooping. He set this up to laugh at me." She snatched the key and stormed back home, but it felt like it burned in her pocket the whole way. She couldn't sleep. By 1 a.m., Patricia lay staring at the ceiling. The stolen key now sat on her nightstand, silently daring her to act. Her mind circled the upcoming home meeting, the petition, the neighbors who once respected her, her legacy slipping away. "One ride," she whispered. "Just one ride around the lake. Let him wake up and find it gone. Let him feel helpless for once." She grabbed the key and headed back to the dock. This time, I was ready. "She's back," I texted Sam. "Looks like the real deal." Through the live feed, I watched Patricia step onto Thunderbolt, slide the key into the ignition, and start the engine. It purred to life without hesitation. "She's in." "Engine running," I messaged. "I'm at the boat launch," Sam replied. "Wait for my signal before you cut it." At 1:15 a.m., Patricia was behind the wheel of a stolen speedboat, adrenaline rushing for the first time in months. The water was calm, the moon high, and for a fleeting moment, she felt invincible. "Let's see how you like losing something important," she muttered, then pushed the throttle forward. I watched the tracker light up. Thunderbolt sped across the lake at 20 miles per hour, then 38, broken bar 40. She was really doing it, and for a moment, I actually felt something like pity. For the first time since Harold passed, Patricia looked through the lens of free, powerful. The open water stretched before her like her own kingdom. "This is what power feels like," she shouted into the wind, her voice lost in the roar of the engine. 45 miles per hour now. The boat skimmed the surface like a low-flying jet. But her joyride was about to hit a wall. Is this really happening? Is she about to blow up her life over a petty neighborhood feud? Hit the comments. Should I stop her now or let her go deeper? Type stop or go to cast your vote. Back on the lake, Patricia felt untouchable. She looped Thunderbolt in wide circles, imagining she was teaching me the ultimate lesson. In her mind, this wasn't theft, it was justice. She was reclaiming control from me, from the HOA, from a world that no longer respected her. As she passed her own house, she gave it a sarcastic wave. "Look at me now, Harold," she said under her breath. "I'm fixing it." The speed, the wind, the rebellion, it was intoxicating. She decided to really send a message as she'd take the boat all the way to the far end of the lake. A 15-minute journey that would leave me in a panic when I realized it was missing. "Time to wrap this up," I texted Sam. "She's heading for deep water." "Perfect, ready when you are." I hovered my thumb over the engine kill switch on my phone. "Sorry, Patricia. You brought this on yourself." At exactly 1:27 a.m., I hit the button. Thunderbolt's engine died instantly. One moment she was flying across the lake at 50 miles per hour. The next total silence. The sudden loss of power sent the boat gliding forward in eerie quiet. Patricia, caught off guard, nearly flew over the console. "What the hell?" she shouted, gripping the wheel. The boat drifted another 200 yards before settling into stillness. She turned the key. Nothing. Pumped the gas pedal. Still nothing. She slammed her hand on the dash. "Start, damn it." For 5 minutes, Patricia fought the controls like she was trying to revive a dead thing. She turned the ignition over and over, checked every switch, yanked on wires she didn't understand. Panic set in, and it was only going to get worse. Patricia leaned over the side, checking if something had tangled around the propeller. The air was sharp, barely 55 degrees, and she was wearing thin black clothes more suited for dramatic exits than midnight lake excursions. Everywhere she looked, the shoreline felt impossibly far. The wine buzz was gone, only cold reality remained. "This can't be happening. This can't be happening." She checked her phone. Full battery, strong signal. She considered calling a friend, but how could she explain being on my boat in the middle of the night? Then she remembered, I was supposed to be out of town on a business retreat. According to the whole calendar, I wouldn't even be back until Sunday, which gave her just enough room to try something stupid. At 1:32 a.m., Patricia made a decision. She dialed 911, took a steadying breath, and stepped into the role of a woman in danger. 911. "What's your emergency?" "Yes, I need help. I'm stranded on Pine Lake, a broken bar, and I think someone is trying to hurt me." Her voice trembled, a equal parts cold and crafted vulnerability. "Where exactly are you, ma'am?" "I'm in the middle of the lake. I'm in a boat, but the engine just died. I can't get back to shore." "How did you end up in the middle of the lake?" "My neighbor Jake Michello, he let me borrow his boat earlier, but now a broken bar. I think he's done something to it remotely. He's been harassing me for months. I think this is revenge." "You're saying someone sabotaged the boat while you were on board?" "Yes, he has some kind of app on his phone. I've seen him use it. He can control the engine." "Okay, so broken bar not technically wrong. I do have an app that controls the engine. She'd seen me use it during maintenance runs. But hearing it weaponized like this, I nearly dropped my phone from laughing." "And this is your boat, ma'am?" the dispatcher asked. Long pause. "Well, technically a broken bar, it's his boat. But he gave me permission. We had an arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" "That's not important right now. I'm cold, I'm alone, and I need help. Can you send someone?" "Of course. I'm dispatching Marine Patrol now." "Can you describe the boat?" "It's blue. About 20 feet, called Thunderbolt. But listen though, when you talk to Jake Mitchell, don't believe anything he says. He's been trying to get me kicked off the HOA board. This is all a ploy to intimidate me. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Are you in immediate danger? Yeah, broken bar, I don't know. With that tap, he could do anything. What if he turns the engine back on while I'm in the water? He could be monitoring me right now. He's probably listening to this call. You're saying Jake Mitchell may be intercepting this conversation? I wouldn't put it past him. He's some kind of tech genius. He's been planning this for weeks. Meanwhile, I was in Mike's apartment, listening to the police scanner and trying not to choke on my soda. I texted Sam. She's really going all in on this story. The dispatcher continued, "Ma'am, are you wearing a life jacket? Number." He didn't leave any safety equipment on board. Like I said, this was all planned. There should be jackets on any registered vessel. Well, I don't see any, Patricia huffed, without checking. Please look in the storage under the seats. A pause. Then, okay, there are some here, broken bar, but that doesn't change anything. He lured me onto this boat. Then he trapped me. Ma'am, you said he gave you permission to use the boat. Was that permission in writing? Number. It was verbal. We discussed a broken bar at the home meeting. And what time did this discussion take place? Patricia hesitated. She could feel the story slipping. Why are you interrogating me? I'm the victim here. Jake Mitchell is the one you should be investigating. I'm just gathering information. Ma'am, what time did you board the boat? Earlier this evening, before it got dark. So you've been on the lake for several hours. No, I mean we took a short ride. Came back a broken bar, then the engine died when I tried to go out again. You went back out at 1:30 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I thought a little ride would help, but then he activated the sabotage app. Ma'am, I'm connecting you with the Marine unit. They'll reach you shortly. While Patricia spun her digital fable, I called Sam directly. She just gave the most unhinged 911 call I've ever heard. I said, claimed I let her borrow the boat, then sabotaged it remotely. I heard the whole thing. Sam laughed. She also just admitted to taking your boat at 1:30 in the morning because she couldn't sleep. You on the water? Already heading out. I'll reach her in 8 minutes. What's your plan? Well, she reported me for tampering with my own boat. So, I assume we're both getting interviewed. Yep. I'll need to hear about this supposed arrangement. And when she can't back that up at broken bar, then she's just a woman caught operating someone else's property without permission, in the middle of the night. I smiled in the dark. Heading back to Pine Lake now. I'll be there in 30. Perfect timing, Sam said. This is about to get a broken bar very interesting. What happens when Sam starts asking for details about Patricia's so-called arrangement with me? Will her story survive real scrutiny? Hit the comment button. How do you think this plays out? What do you think Patricia is going to say when the police start asking real questions? Drop a busted if you think her story's about to implode. At 1:45 a.m., Sam's Marine Patrol boat reached Patricia. Before he could even speak, she launched into her performance. Thank God you're here, she gasped. Jake Mitchell tried to kill me. He has this remote control app that shuts off boat engines. This was all planned. Sam, ever the professional, kept his expression neutral. Ma'am, I'm Officer Brooks. Let's get you back to shore safely. Then we can sort this out. As he helped her aboard, he asked a series of calm, procedural questions, each one designed to test the seams in her narrative. Can you walk me through exactly how you ended up on Mr. Mitchell's boat? He gave me permission, she insisted. We had an arrangement. When was this arrangement made? At the home meeting last week. What time did you board the boat tonight? Patricia hesitated. She realized she'd already told the 911 operator a different version. Well, a broken bar, it was earlier. Then I came back because I couldn't sleep. So you took the boat twice tonight? No, I mean, yes, but the second time was when he sabotaged it. Sam towed Thunderbolt behind his patrol boat while Patricia continued weaving her web. And Mr. Mitchell was present when you took the boat the second time? Number. He's out of town. That's how I know he used the app. So, just to confirm, he gave you permission to use his boat while he was out of town? Well, a broken bar, not exactly, but we had an understanding. By the time they reached the dock, Patricia had contradicted herself on nearly every key detail. Ma'am, Sam said gently, I'm going to need you to come to the station to file a formal complaint. Good. she snapped. "I want Jake Mitchell arrested immediately for attempted murder." "We'll investigate your claims thoroughly," Sam said. "But first, I need to contact Mr. Mitchell and get his side of the story. He planned this. That's why he left Tona, so he'd have an alibi. Then I suppose we'll wait for his return." Attempted murder is a serious charge. At 2:15 a.m., Patricia sat in the interview room, her coffee untouched, growing cold. She'd had 45 minutes to rehearse, revise, and reframe. She was ready, or so she thought. By 2:30, I arrived at the station, the picture of worried confusion. "Officer Brooks, thank God Patricia's safe." "What happened to my boat?" "Sam played it perfectly." "Mr. Mitchell, Miss Stone claims you gave her permission to use your vessel and then remotely disabled it while she was out on the water." What?" I blinked. "When did I supposedly give her permission?" Patricia's voice shot across the room. "Don't play dumb. We discussed it at the home meeting." I turned to her, frowning. "Patricia, I've never given you permission to use my boat." "At that home meeting, you were reading a 47-point complaint about it even being docked there." "That's a lie," she snapped. "Tell him, Officer Brooks. Tell him about our arrangement." Sam flipped open his notepad. "Ms. Stone, could you clarify the arrangement? What exactly did Mr. Mitchell say to you?" Patricia frowns. "You could see the gears grinding in real time. He's the broken bar I could borrow at any time, for HOA business." "Patricia," I said slowly, "I've never spoken to you privately. Every conversation we've had was at public meetings where you were trying to get me fined." "You're lying. You gave me the spare key." "What spare key?" Triumphantly, she pulled one from her pocket. "This one." I took it, inspecting it carefully. "Patricia broken bar, this is my spare key." "How did you get it?" "You left it for me." "Where?" "On the boat seat." I turned to Sam. "Officer, I never left Patricia a key. If she found this on the boat, she would have had to board it without permission in the first place." Silence fell. You could feel the oxygen leave the room. Sam leaned in, his tone cautious. "Ms. Stone, are you saying you boarded Mr. Mitchell's boat without his knowledge to retrieve a key you say he left for you?" "Yeah, that's nota. He knew I'd find it." "Did he tell you to look for it?" "Number." "Did he call or text you about using the boat?" "Number." "Did anyone witness him giving you permission?" "No, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen." I reached into my bag and placed a USB drive on the table. "Officer Brooks, I think this might help." Sam plugged it into his laptop. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "Security footage from my dock. Starts at 11:45 p.m. The room watched in silence as Patricia crept into frame, dressed like a cat burglar, clearly trying to be stealthy. She found the spare key, struggled with the engine, then sped off across the lake, a broken bar, laughing like a Saturday morning cartoon villain. Sam glanced at her slowly. "Ms. Stone," he said, voice flat, "do you have any explanation for this footage?" "Ms. Stone," Sam said, gesturing to the screen, "this footage shows you taking Mr. Mitchell's boat at 1:15 a.m. without his knowledge or permission. That's theft of a motor vehicle." Patricia scoffed. "But he wasn't even home. How could I ask for permission?" "Exactly," Sam replied calmly. "If he wasn't home, how could he have given you permission?" Patricia's eyes stayed locked on the screen, watching herself prowl around like a cartoon villain. Her face fell. "This is entrapment. He set me up." I stayed composed. "Patricia, I accidentally left that spare key in the boat after maintenance yesterday. I didn't even know it was missing until I got the GPS alert." "You have an app that controls the engine. You shut it off on purpose?" "Yes," I said. "A diagnostic app. It has emergency shutdown features in case of engine failure or theft." "When I saw the boat moving at high speed across the lake at 1 a.m., I used the remote kill switch." Sam nodded. "It's a standard anti-theft feature. Like a car alarm, a broken bar, only smarter." Patricia glared at both of us. "So you admit you were tracking me?" "I was tracking my stolen boat," I said. "Same as if someone had hot-wired my car." Sam pulled up the 911 call transcript. "Ms. Stone," he said, "you told the dispatcher Mr. Mitchell gave you permission to borrow the boat, and also claimed he trapped you and tried to kill you. Which version is true?" Patricia faltered. "Yeah, I was scared. I wasn't thinking clearly." "You also said you took the boat because you couldn't sleep." "At 1:30 in the morning," Sam continued, "you took a speedboat onto a dark lake because you needed some air, at 50 miles per hour?" Patricia slumped back in her chair as the reality closed in. Fine. I took his stupid boat. But he deserved it. He's been harassing me for months. I stayed calm. Patricia, you've sent me 23 official complaints, hired a private investigator to follow me, tried to sabotage my boat twice, and now you've stolen it. I had documentation for everything. Sam whistled low. 2 years on the force, he muttered. And I've never seen someone record their own crimes so thoroughly. He closed his notepad and reached for the cuffs. But just before the click of metal, the question hung in the air. Would Patricia finally admit the truth, or keep doubling down? Drop a comment. Type guilty if you think she's finally caught, or Denny if she'll keep lying. Within 48 hours, word of the boat theft had raced through Pine Lake like a wildfire. It was simply too bizarre to stay quiet. The HOA president, a queen of noise complaints, had hijacked a speedboat and ended up in handcuffs. Mrs. Henderson called for an emergency home meeting on Friday. The agenda, one item only: immediate removal of Patricia Stone from all HOA roles and board membership. Patricia, now out on bail and facing criminal charges, made one last desperate grab for control. She sent a mass email to every resident. She claimed she was the victim of a coordinated harassment campaign led by me. She accused me of using illegal surveillance technology, manipulating local police, and manufacturing evidence to destroy her. She framed it as an attack on Pine Lake's community leadership, and asked for support in this dark hour of civic betrayal. It backfired catastrophically. Neighbors who had once stayed neutral now saw Patricia as completely unhinged and dangerous. I received dozens of messages thanking me for handling the situation with patience and restraint. Many apologized for not seeing it sooner. People praised me for sticking it out instead of just moving away. And some more than a few expressed sheer disbelief that she'd not only stolen my boat, a broken bar, but called 911 on herself. At Friday's emergency vote, the result wasn't even close. 34-0 in favor of removing Patricia from the HOA entirely. Even residents who couldn't attend sent proxy votes against her. Some drove home early from vacation just to cast a ballot. It was the highest turnout in Pine Lake HOA history. But Patricia wasn't done. Facing criminal charges and complete social exile, she scraped together $500 and hired the only lawyer willing to take the case. Jim Morrison graduated law school in 1987, mostly handled DUI pleas and small claims disputes. Never tried a boat theft case in his life, but he needed the money. His strategy? Blame me, Your Honor, Morrison argued. My client was entrapped. Mr. Mitchell deliberately left the key in plain sight, knowing she would find it. This was a premeditated trap. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Walsh, didn't even stand. Your Honor, she said dryly, leaving your own key in your own boat on your own dock is not entrapment. Ms. Stone made a conscious choice to take ITA and then lied to law enforcement. Judge Martinez reviewed the footage, GPS data, the 911 recording, and Patricia's ever-evolving versions of the truth. Then he turned to her. Ms. Stone, he said evenly, do you have any evidence that Mr. Mitchell? Did Mr. Mitchell give you permission to use his boat? Judge Martinez asked. Patricia, having fired her lawyer mid-trial after he advised her to plead guilty, lifted her chin. I didn't need written permission. I was the HOA president. That gave me authority to investigate community violations. At 1:30 in the morning? The judge asked, unimpressed. Noise pollution, safety violations, possibly illegal use of the lake. She rattled off. He could have been doing something criminal. So your response, the judge replied slowly, was to steal the boat and speed across the lake yourself? I was gathering evidence, Patricia insisted. It was part of a pattern of reckless behavior I needed to document. Judge Martinez had heard enough. Ms. Stone, he said, you stole a motor vehicle, lied to the police, and wasted emergency services. Your former role as HOA president gave you no authority to take someone else's property. The sentence came down swiftly. 6 months in jail, suspended, 2 years probation, $8,000 in fines, 200 hours of community service, lifetime ban from all HOA leadership roles, 5-year restraining order prohibiting contact with Mr. Mitchell or his property. Patricia's removal marked a turning point for Pine Lake. The new HOA board, led by Mrs. Mueller, a retired teacher with no relation to me, quickly introduced a wave of reforms focused on building community rather than enforcing control. Rules became clear, fair, and accountable. Complaints had to be specific, documented, and based on actual violations. 1 complaint per resident per month, maximum. Fines required approval from a 3-member review panel. Surveillance of residents, including private investigators, was strictly banned. Board meetings shifted focus to community improvement projects. They even introduced the Patricia Stone rule. Any HOA official receiving more than 3 legitimate harassment complaints would trigger an immediate board review. I unexpectedly became something of a local hero but kept a low profile. At the first HOA meeting after Patricia's departure, residents gave me a standing ovation as I walked in. "Thank you," I said. "But I didn't do anything special. I just documented everything and let the legal system work." Mrs. Henderson stood up. "Jake, you showed us we don't have to put up with bullies, especially not ones hiding behind authority. You stood up for all of us." The board voted unanimously to issue an official apology for Patricia's actions, reimburse me for legal fees and security upgrades, launch an annual Neighbor Appreciation Day, create a memorial community fund in Harold's name, dedicated to neighborhood improvement. Life at Pine Lake quickly settled into something better than normal. It became thriving. I resumed my peaceful boat commute. Neighbors waved from their docks. Kids came by to see Thunderbolt up close, wide-eyed with curiosity. Parents thanked me for what I'd done. Property values started to climb by up 12% in the following months as word spread that Pine Lake had gone from a dysfunctional HOA battleground to a model community. The cameras I once installed to protect my dock were converted into a community watch system. They helped elderly residents feel safe and gave neighbors peace of mind while away on vacation. Patricia, meanwhile, quietly completed her community service cleaning up beaches at the state park. She also completed court-ordered anger management classes. Her lake house sold at a 15% loss, and she moved to a downtown condo. Rumor had it she tried to join her new building's tenant association, but residents Googled her name and found the boat theft story. She was quietly rejected. 3 months later, I hosted a backyard barbecue on my deck. 25 neighbors showed up at the largest social gathering Pine Lake had seen in years. As the sun dipped behind the trees and laughter echoed across the water, my phone buzzed. A text from Sam. "Heard Patricia finished her community service. How's the neighborhood?" I glanced around at the smiling faces, the clinking glasses, the kids chasing bubbles. I replied, "Perfect. Couldn't be better." But I had no idea what surprise was coming next. Comment below. Do you think I earned this ending? Type hero if you think I handled Patricia perfectly. Type karma if you think she got exactly what she deserved. 6 months later, Pine Lake had become the neighborhood everyone dreamed of. The new HOA focused on community, not control. Monthly lake days brought families together. A new boat safety course taught kids how to enjoy the water responsibly. Property values continued to climb because now, people wanted to live here. I settled into a new routine as the neighborhood's unofficial tech guy. I helped older residents with their phones, and taught teenagers how to care for engines and hulls. My boat commute became something of a local landmark. Kids waved every morning. Some even said they wanted to be boat engineers when they grew up. The security cameras I'd once installed to monitor my dock had since been repurposed into a neighborhood watch system. Now, they helped vacationing neighbors keep an eye on their home. Another piece of the strange legacy Patricia left behind. As for Patricia herself, she'd finished her community service cleaning up state park beaches and completed court-mandated anger management classes. She sold her lake house for 15% below market value and moved to a downtown condo. Rumor had it she tried to run for president of her new building's tenant association, but residents Googled her, found the boat theft articles, and politely shut that idea down. I barely thought about her anymore except when new neighbors asked about the HOA story. Karen and I would end up retelling the legend. I'd become Pine Lake's unofficial folk hero, the guy who took on neighborhood tyranny with patience, evidence, and just the right amount of cleverness. Life at Pine Lake was better than ever, so good, it almost felt fragile, too perfect to last. Then, on a bright Saturday morning in late summer, as I was washing Thunderbolt, Mrs. Miller approached with a mysterious smiley and a small crowd of neighbors trailing behind her. "Jake," she said, "can you gather everyone for a quick announcement? I've got some exciting news about our community." 20 minutes later, my deck and dock were packed with curious residents. Mrs. Miller stood at the front, buzzing with excitement. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "As you know, Pine Lake has gone through some major changes this past year. We've learned how important fairness, kindness, and standing up for what's right truly are." People nodded. I noticed a few neighbors grinning like they were in on something. "Well," she continued, "I'm thrilled to announce that we have a very special new neighbor moving in, someone who's already shown deep commitment to this community's safety and well-being. Someone with a cool head, a fair hand, and experience handling difficult personalities." A few heads turned toward Patricia's old house, empty for 6 months. Mrs. Miller smiled wider. "The new resident of 47 Lakeshore Drive is Sam." Sam stepped out from behind the next house, wearing a Pine Lake resident t-shirt and grinning ear to ear. "Surprise," he said. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. "You bought Patricia's house?" I said, stunned. "Got a good deal?" 20% under market." Sam grinned. "Turns out getting arrested for boat theft at 2 a.m. really tanks resale value." Mrs. Henderson asked the question on everyone's mind. "Does this mean we have our own police officer living here full-time?" Sam raised an eyebrow playfully. "I can't provide official services just because I live here. But let's just say Pine Lake now has 24/7 access to someone with law enforcement experience." The crowd cheered again. Snacks and drinks appeared out of nowhere clearly. This had been planned. I pulled Sam aside. "Okay, how long have you been plotting this?" "Since the night I arrested Patricia," he said. "When the for sale sign went up a couple months later, I knew it was the perfect fit. Close to work, lakefront, and, frankly, the most effective neighbor screening process I've ever seen." "Screening process?" I laughed. "Think about it," Sam said. "Anyone unstable enough to steal a boat and call 911 to frame the victim, already filtered out. This neighborhood's been pre-tested for sanity." We both laughed. "So you're saying Patricia's crime was like a quality control check?" "Exactly. Also, I've always wanted a lake house. Watching you cruise Thunderbolt to work every day sealed the deal. Water travel beats traffic." He pulled out his phone and showed me a boat app. "Got my own now. Not as fancy, but it's got GPS and remote engine control." "You didn't learn from the best," he winked. "Hopefully, I won't need theft recovery in this neighborhood." We looked around. Kids were playing by the water. Parents were chatting, drinks in hand. A year ago, this same dock had been under surveillance, under tension. Now, it was peaceful. "You know what the best part is?" Sam asked. "What?" "Patricia spent 8 years trying to control this place with rules, fear, and intimidation. And now, the neighborhood is being protected by someone who actually understands what community means." I raised my drink. "To poetic justice." Sam clinked bottles. "To the most expensive boat theft in Pine Lake history." 1 year later, Pine Lake held its first Community Safety Fun Day. Families gathered for boat safety demos, water sports competitions, and a massive potluck dinner. Sam and I co-hosted, teaching kids about GPS trackers and proper boating, while reminding parents that security tech should protect privacy, not invade it. During the evening barbecue, Mrs. Miller presented me with a custom plaque, for showing us that standing up to bullies helps Severinia and that patience and documentation always win. The applause was thunderous. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Saw the event photos online. Looks like a nice neighborhood. Hope you're all very happy together." I showed Sam. He shrugged. "Delete it. Enjoy the party." I did. Phone down, eyes up. Across the lawn, kids splashed in the shallows. Parents laughed around the grill. Sam, in an officer-friendly apron, flipped burgers. The neighborhood Patricia tried to rule had become everything she never wanted: peaceful, connected, happy, and somehow, she'd helped build it. As I watched the sunset reflect off the water, I noticed a for sale sign going up across the lake. I nudged Sam. "Think we should run a background check on whoever buys that place?" Sam smirked. "Already on it. This neighborhood has standards." The perfect community was about to get even better. Hit like if you think Sam and I make the ultimate neighbor duo. Comment perfect if you'd love to live in a place like Pine Lake. And if you've got a wild horror story, drop it below. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe, because karma stories like this, they write themselves. Still reading? You're one of us now. Welcome to Pine Lake.